It's no secret that 2023 was a huge year for gaming. So many big releases came out last year, like Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, other game. Of all the major releases last year, the only ones I really cared about were these three, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, most of the games I played that came out last year were small little indie games that nobody's ever heard of. You know what? Let's bump that number up from nobody's ever heard of to, oh, okay, at least somebody's heard of it. Here are 5 hidden gems from 2023. Recently, there's been an influx of bite-sized platformers that are only a couple hours long. Indie development is expensive after all, and sometimes you just need to put a small game out to get more funds, or maybe you have an idea but it's not fun enough to stretch over a 10-hour campaign. Orbo's Odyssey could very well be the best of these I've played yet. No offense, Actro. In Orbo's Odyssey, you play as an office worker that can't open a door in his office, and has to go through his company's product portals in order to make gear parts to make himself a new arm, so he doesn't get stuck there for all eternity. Despite being a collectathon, you don't actually have that many moves. There's a ground pound, which you can bounce out of if you're a pro gamer like me. Some float jump that's not very useful at all. And you can launch yourself like a bullet through the air. Probably should have mentioned that first. Although that bullet dash is the only real tool in your kit, the gameplay never gets boring or repetitive. Hey everyone, it's me in the non-existent editing booth, editing the video here. So, I don't really revise my scripts that much, because I'm a natural writer, so they don't need much revision. Unfortunately, that system has some consequences, and this is definitely one of them. I apparently forgot to stress how good the movement system in this game is. I just said it's not boring. So let me do that now. This movement system is really good. It's honestly a shame that it's locked behind a 1-hour game. Like, I need more of this. I need more. Okay, that's all. Back to the video now. Sorry. Despite its open level structure, in my opinion, the best part of the game is the linear time trial missions. It almost makes you wish the whole game was linear, but I can't really imagine it that way either, as it's really good the way it is. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about the game. I'm not sure $9 is worth it for only an hour. Well, this was a repeat playthrough, as evidenced by the spasms I had everywhere, so let's make it 2. But I'm not really one to talk since I bought it only $1 below full price, and don't regret it at all. Oh, I forgot to mention her coworker looks like this, and I'm not sure which word his name was trying to sound like. Let me know in the comments what you think, which joke Fever Dream Johnny was going for. Okay, next game, let's go, bye. Mosa Lina is probably the most experimental game I've ever played. That name is not a typo, and I think it does a good job of portraying the game's purpose. While paintings like the Mona Lisa offer you a carefully crafted experience, this game is a puzzle game where you're given random tools to solve each level. Well, that's not a big deal. I hear you saying out loud on the other side of the screen for some reason. Random games are everywhere nowadays. You're telling me you've never played a roguelike before? Bruh, Binding of Isaac is literally my most played game on Steam. Of course I know what a roguelike is. But most roguelikes are action and strategy based, so you don't need a specific item or upgrade to win. You can just go. But as I mentioned before, Mosa Lina is a puzzle game. Your objective in every level is to touch all the fruit and then head to the exit. Because the dev naturally didn't playtest every tool on every level, it's very possible the puzzle is impossible to solve. But with the out-of-box thinking you have to do to succeed, it never feels impossible. It always feels like you messed up. And part of that is due to how creative the tools are. There's a sphere that makes everything in its radius go up, a frog that can eat the fruit for you, a butterfly that teleports you to your crosshair but teleports you back to itself after a few seconds, and an X that literally just lets you delete an object, like you could just delete stuff. But while the game is very fun, there's no progression, and no reason to keep playing outside of your first 2 hours. But I honestly don't think there should be. Mosa Lina is simply an experiment after all. A what-if scenario to say what would happen if you had a random puzzle game. And it wouldn't really be fair to put progression in a game where there are impossible levels anyway. You see, this part's weird, because while I don't think the game should have progression, its absence definitely led me to play it less. But it's still a very fun game, and we will revisit it in the future. Besides, Mosa Lina is only $5 on Steam, and is absolutely worth it at that price, even if you do only play it for an afternoon or 2. This is probably the most well-known game on here, as it got nominated for multiple Game Awards and was heavily marketed by Xbox. Actually, those two things are probably not a coincidence. It's probably one caused the other. You could argue then that it's not a hidden gem. It's already gotten the recognition it deserves. I would argue that it's my list And if I want to talk about a game, I'm going to talk about a game, and there's nothing you can do to stop. Party Animals is a competitive platform with ragdoll physics, where you play as one of many animals and punch, dropkick, whack, and most importantly, throw other players to survive, or score points to your team. Don't think Fall Guys, think Gang Beasts. It's very difficult to control your animal and actually land hits on people, but that leads to a hilarious experience, not a frustrating one. The lack of frustration is also caused by the fact that the game is completely lag-free. I don't know how they did it. In my 15 hours of gameplay, there was only one lag spike. The game even manages to do this slow-mo effect whenever you get hit hard, but it doesn't like desync you or make the other players go slower, because for no one else's perspective, it just looks like this. But how did they do this? This is magic? Like, actually, how did they do this? The levels are really well designed too. Even though the survival rounds are the main attraction, the team maps are really fun as well, just unlike Fall Guys. Unfortunately, however, the map selection system, in my opinion, is flawed. Whenever a new round starts, the players will all vote on which map they want to play. That sounds perfectly normal on the surface, since voting for maps is a very common system in online multiplayer games. But in this game, different levels have completely different goals. As a result of this voting system, the survival level pretty much always gets picked, unless it's like Lollipop Factory, that one's pretty popular. So you end up playing Ichiban 30 plus times while not getting to experience half the game. That's no joke, I haven't gotten to play all of the maps yet, and there's only like 20. I mean, yeah, I like Black Hole Lab as much as the next guy, but that train level looks really cool. Please let me play the train level. No, not that train level, the subway level. What makes up for that, though, is the presentation. The menus and UI genuinely make it feel like a AAA game, and the music sounds like it could be in a major motion picture. It's very impressive. Finally, we have the progression. Guess what the progression is? I kid. This system was actually handled very well in this game. There's only one battle pass, and you don't pay for it. Well, you already paid for it, so. If you finish it, you get random rewards every subsequent level. Thankfully, they aren't all just costumes of the same model, as there's several animals to unlock, like an iguana, an owl, a moose, and Ori. Why did they make the second skin in this collab Naru when Ku was right there? It makes 10 times more sense. I mean, it's party animals, not humanoids, and Naru's emoting face does not mesh well. Like, is Naru more iconic or something? Ku's clearly important because he's literally on the Xbox's target display with the rest of their Xbox's core franchises. You know what? I take it back. I want Moki instead. Recreate, if you're watching this, please add Ku and Moki to the game. Thanks in advance. Going from the most known game on this list to the least known game, I only found out about this one through the Steam Interactive Recommender. Does anyone actually use this? I haven't actually seen anybody mention Cavern of Dreams without searching for it specifically though, so I'm very happy I just was bored one day and decided to go on the Steam Interactive Recommender. Anyway, this is probably the most N64-like I've ever seen. No offense to C-Actor once again. Like, it's honestly impressive how much it feels like I should be playing with a terrible controller. This is mostly due to the blur filter though, but if you turn it off, don't turn it off, that's sacrilegious. You play as Finn, a small dragon child whose 40 siblings just got stolen by a bat. Wait, how many? Okay, I'm just going to assume that in this world, dragons have like a litter of like 10 eggs at a time, because I don't want to think about the implications of it otherwise like I had to with Scribblenauts. Outside of the setup being absurd, the story is very good if you look for all the hidden details. The villain just isn't a villain for the sake of it. It had to go through some pretty messed up emotions. And I have to say, this moveset's pretty good. In particular, I really like the roll move. It's very satisfying. It's just fun to roll around doing nothing. Big thanks to Benign Studio for... Benign? I'm going to assume it's like Benign. For finally giving me the opportunity to use the roll move from Wally console. I was very disappointed when I bought the pre-C version of Wally and it was completely different. Like, yeah, pressing the Q button over and over is kind of satisfying, but it's not nearly the same and you all know it. Anyway, the only real stinker in your kit is the bubble move, which allows you to put out fires and nothing else. It's so weird because the move you unlock before this is a ground pound, which does so many things, and yet the last move in the game, besides the 100% reward, is hyper-specific and only used in like 2 puzzles. Like, okay, if you're gonna give me a move that only unlocks the store, just give me a key. Don't gaslight me into thinking it could be something cool. I think these unlocks should be spaced out a little more though, as I got the second to last move after completing my first level. Actually, no, I used that move to complete the level. I had all but 1 egg in it, so before I completed the first level. Now that may be because this game gave me a case of OCD for whatever reason and caused me to get every egg in the level in my first go, but still. The level design is really good and definitely feels like it's from the era. It was definitely inspired by Banjo-Kazooie games in particular, as one of the levels is basically just Clanker's Cavern but an airship, which I don't mind. It's really cool. And there's a hint of the level interconnectivity from Banjo-Tooie. But again, the egg requirements are too low. My second level was supposed to be the third, and I accidentally skipped the second one by mistake, yet I had enough to go to the final boss. Probably my fault for thinking this giant room behind a big door only had one egg in it, though. And I do actually, you know what, now that I think about it, I had to collect every egg to get into there. And you should be allowed to skip one level because it's cool for speedruns, so I don't know why I'm complaining about this. I honestly don't. Like, I got nothing. Okay, this next part isn't a criticism or anything, but I just wanted to bring up the fact that there's no health in this game. You only die from hazards and enemies just knock you back. It's not a problem or anything. It works well enough. It's just kind of a bold move. This game is surprisingly long, too. I thought it was just going to be a bite-sized platformer like Orbo's Odyssey, but no, it took me a whole weekend. Definitely worth the $11 at that length. Originally released as a DS game in 2010, Capcom's Ghost Trick Phantom Detective got a remaster last year. Yet still no one talks about it. I originally thought that was due to the fact that it's a DS game. I mean, it's not like it's a small indie game. It was made by the creative Ace Attorney. Well, after playing the game, I can confidently say that this is undeserved. This game is absolutely worth talking about. The game begins at the end. Or at least at the end of the main character's life. It's a real shame he died too, because there's this girl next to him who was about to get shot. If only he was still alive, he could save her. Yeah. If it wasn't obvious, you play as a ghost. That's not the typical form of a ghost like you see in most media, where it's like a thing that can fly through walls and is overpowered. No, this is just a simple soul that can manipulate small objects within range. All the puzzles in the game require you to move between different objects and use tricks to progress, which are usually a simple action like rolling a wheel to access a new part of a map, or making an ornament spin faster to get higher up. And I have to say, these puzzles are really well designed. I just put really designed in my script. What does that even mean? It's very intuitive yet rewarding to figure out how to get to your destination. I was never really stumped in a frustrating way, like I am with most games in the genre. By in the genre, I just mean puzzle games. So most puzzle games. Well, there was this one puzzle where you had to possess a water drop that's only there half the time, so I couldn't see it, but since it's only one example where I got stuck in the whole game, I'm willing to chalk that up to human error. The girl still dies though, even when you use your tricks. Thankfully, you still have one more trick. See what I did there? Aren't I funny, guys? Aren't I up your sleeve? You can travel back in time 4 minutes before someone's death as many times as you want. And whenever you change someone's fate, no matter how little of a change it is, you get a checkpoint. The final thing you can do as a ghost is use phone lines to travel, so by now you might be able to understand what the core gameplay loop is. You save someone, hop on the phone, go somewhere else. This sounds formulaic to a fault, but it never gets boring, and while that is due to the variation of the puzzles, it's mostly due to the impeccable story. This is one of the best narratives I've ever seen in a video game. Now, I know I don't play a lot of games with story, but the ones I have played are some of the most universally praised for their story. So I definitely know what a good story is in a video game at this point. Characters are all so quirky, like the detective who practically moonwalks into every room, or the prison guard who dances under extreme stress. And apparently that dance has been passed down for generations. Yet they show depth and emotion when the situation calls for it, and feel real as a result. The best thing I can say about the narrative, though, is that it's extremely well constructed. And what I mean by that is that there's pretty much a major plot twist every chapter, some that build on previous plot twists. But by the end it all makes sense, and there's no plot holes or anything. It all comes together perfectly. I know I'm talking in very vague terms here, but you really do need to go in as blind as possible. This game is honestly a masterpiece which I can't find any flaws with, as the worst thing I can say about it is that the speech bubbles are a little bland. Which is the most nitpicky nitpick I've ever brought up in a review. And yes, no flaws also means the soundtrack is very good and the game is nice and long. Since it was a DS game that originally used a touchscreen, I would recommend using a mouse on the PC version rather than getting the console one and using a controller, but I really don't care how you play it. Just play this game already. Please, just play Ghost Trick already. It's so good. Oh my god. So yeah, that was 2023. Since I spent so long talking about 2023, let's look at 2024, shall we? What's coming up this year? Turnip Boy Robs a Bank already came out. I need to scratch that one off. Ooh, Gex is coming back this year. That'll be interesting. Wait, what's this? Apparently here there's a game coming out called Me Graduating High School and Starting College. I mean, very interesting title, but I'm sure it'll be a life-changing experience.